I mean, I know you can smile about it now. You peaked one out right there, but is that pretty rough? Is that a bad? Is that meet a bad memory for you coming close and not getting it?
Yeah, it was tough. Like it was tough, right? I mean, I knew I had one more year, but then on the other hand, you have one more year. You got to put it together. There was and Al's a great athlete, and he and I, went on to be great friends and still are. But there was a picture, and I remember it was in the paper.
And you're not great friends at this time, right? Not that you're enemies, but he described you guys really didn't have much of a relationship. And
I didn't even know
it wasn't until he was deciding where to go to school that I think he called you, that he kind of described that was one of the first times you two had really talked like that. So you're not great friends at this time in the spring.
Yeah, I don't even remember seeing him at state meets or anything, like the club meets. Until that time, so right around then, like that spring, I remember seeing him at U.S. Swimming, the state meet, or some other clubs. But we were just in different swimming circles. I didn't, wasn't on my radar. So yeah, that was a tough one. It was a bummer. I mean, it was still better, right? I was still moving the right way. And if I just thought about the times, I was real happy. I was real happy with that.
Let me be the jerk here that's just going to pour a little bit more gasoline on this fire, right? Yeah. So this continues that summer, right? So you go to junior nationals and you have an opportunity you get engaged with same guy, Alec Mull, in a 200 free junior national final. You guys swim great. I think you go 153 right in that range. Really good 200 long course swim at that point in your career. And again, I think he touches you out by less than 0.2 of a second. I still think this is part of what's creating you, though, right? Because there's another chapter that we're going to get to in a second. You're improving at a rapid rate, but all the spoils of victory seem to just be out of your reach right now. And I'm still left a little feeling like this is building you up, that you're not clinching those things. Again, another great summer for you in '89, and you continue to improve.
Yeah. So, so a couple things happened. After the state meet, I went to juniors. At juniors, I swam some other events. And one of them was the IM. And I had a great IM swim, and I just did not expect it, right? I was there, I'm a 200 freestyler, been doing that the last couple of years. Just out of nowhere, had this really solid swim, final. I don't remember what it was. It dropped a bucket at a time. So I'm like, oh, well, that was really cool. I kind of like the IM. Go into the summer, train hard, go to New York, I think is where that meet was with Al. Same thing happens, 200 free, had the prelim swim. I was just, holy crud, 150 or 153. Just thrilled about it. I think I was seated second, I think, going in behind Al. But there's this guy again. So we have a great night swim. I think I stayed this right on my time, maybe added 150 or something. But he touches me out again. And that's just like I was, again, just kind of shook. And whatever else I swam in that meet was, nothing special after that. But that was a tough one again. So I just had this series of otherwise awesome personal achievements, just in terms of, incremental improvement and dropping time, that just always had this shade because, in terms of just the finish, couldn't put it together in the last 10 yards,
you know, but obviously some good foundations have been placed in you here. You know, I've heard just was listening to one of the swimmers the other day talk about separating competition from athletic participation, and, you know, how devastating it can be to a young athlete if they hinge everything on winning. And, you know, you're continuing to improve here, and obviously we're able to keep some, you know, focus during that time, as maybe you're frustrated about the wins and losses, but you're able to see how much you're improving at that time. You swam in high school. Did you swim for Chuck Olson?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I'd like to hear just a little bit about how you trained in high school. A lot of guys, you know, especially more contemporary guys that are coming along now, really get caught up in that challenge of how they're going to train with clubs and their high school programs. And of course, different rules, different MHSAA rules at different times have kind of been highlighted. So for you, how did you approach high school swimming? Where were you training? And I'd love to hear a little bit of the relationship with your high school coach as well.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, when I left club to go my freshman year into high school, you know, Dave was like, you know, Chuck Olson, he's great. You're going to be fine over there. And it was one of those, like, you know, I'll see you, you know, and you know, we didn't keep, you know, tight correspondence. I may have gone into a practice once in a while, but not that I can remember. You know, I went to a club meet like with the team in January every year. But essentially I just turned off one thing and went all in on the other. Now it's funny that I think about this now. But our high school program, was different. I mean, we swam with shirts on. So I don't know who does that. I'd never heard of it before. That's one thing I remember going back to Dave over at the club team and being like, hey, I don't know if this is going to work out, right? I don't know if I can see myself swimming with a shirt on every day. And he's like, well, you know, just give it a shot. Like, you know, we've had some great swimmers come out of there. So, yeah, for 4 years, you know, we swam with, it was like a nylon, almost like a basketball jersey, like a tank top. It's crazy. But it was good. Like, you know, I didn't even, after a while, I didn't even think anything of it. It was just like having this giant drag suit on. And, you know, Mr. Olson, Chuck Olson, just a real good approach. I mean, we gave each other, I never questioned anything he put down in terms of, you know, the workouts. And I was really able to, you know, understand kind of methods after a while and where I could really, you know, push what I needed to push. You know, we didn't do mornings. And I never did mornings, never did doubles, all through high school. But the workouts were pretty big. I mean, we did big afternoon sessions. You know, that was it. No weights, didn't do any weights. But, you know, he made sure, you know, I was getting, you know, what I felt I needed and, you know, what he thought I needed. So it was a good balance. And he let me have a lot of open, you know, input into what I was swimming. So those kind of moves around every year at the state meet, you know, we would talk about it. And I'd say, hey, I feel like I can make this change and try something new over here. And he was always up for it. So it was great. He did a great job with our high school program. And we, you know, trained right there at the school. You know, those are good days. We had a great team.
Well, the usage of practice shirts is probably down a little bit, but once this video circulates and they hear about the 90 season, the Speedo swim shirts, we'll see if Phelps has got them on his front page, you know, right now or not on the catalog. But
it was brutal.
Right. So let's put all of this close but no cigar talk behind us, because that's over now. 1990 is your year.
Yeah.
Let's start with the 200 IM. And this is a really cool story for anybody that doesn't know it. So a guy named Dave Chernek came along in 1980 and swam a 151 in the 200 IM. And actually went a little bit faster the following year, re-broke that state record. So he set that record in 80, lowered it in 81, and he held that record until 1990, when a senior from Plymouth named Ron Orris came along and finally erased that record off of the Michigan State Record Board that had stood there for over a year. Now, you have already talked about, you know, some multiple second place finishes at the state meet, and you also touched on the fact that you were driven by records, that you wanted to leave your mark and you wanted to put your name on record boards, and you've waited, you know, significantly, you know, to do this, certainly maybe at the school level, but this is different. This is a state championship and a state record. Before we talk about the butterfly, let's talk specifically about the 200 IM and what that first one meant to you.
Oh, yeah. It was, I mean, it was every, you know, all season that was the focus. Those, you know, I knew what events I was going to train. And every stroke I took, I was thinking about that meet. Like that was the meet. And had a great training year, stayed, you know, healthy, had, coming off of the juniors that summer, you know, was on picked up for a national junior team. So we got to meet some guys and do some training camps that year, and travel to do some meets there. So like everything my senior year was just kind of going really positive. So I get to the meet, you know, a lot of just pre-meet anxiety. I remember in prelims dropping time, like, you know, going fast in prelims, but I was ripping it. Like I was going for it in prelims, you know, and wasn't going that fast. I mean, I think I went like 152 or something in prelims, and I was a bit worried, you know. I was like, oh man, you know, I should be a little better than this. I hadn't shaved down or anything. So, but yeah, to come back one day later, I think just everything, you know, mentally clicks, you know, like this is it. This is the last shot. Came back and, yeah, it just felt really good. Like you know, I can still remember parts of that, you know, that race, just, you know, little triggers and things, you know, thinking about, you know, coming off the walls and the transitions that I wanted to focus on. So that was nice. It was nice to have it all come together, and you know, I was thrilled with the time, and of course,
because that podium had been so elusive to you, do you remember that part as well, stepping up on that #1 podium for the first time?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I remember it. It was such a burden, like, you know, to have off my shoulders, just to have done it. So, you know, for me, you know, if I had to wait that long, put it together like that, you know, do it my senior year and get that record was just a cherry on top. So yeah, it was great.
And I'm sure that did not do anything to deter your excitement for the 100 butterfly and what was about to happen next. So if I can kind of tell a similar history lesson here, in 1984, a butterflyer from Saginaw named Wade King came along, and he went 50.2 as a junior, which was the all-class state record. He came back as a senior and went 50.00 in 1985, but that was at the Class B meet. Yeah. So the Class A meet record was a little bit different, but that was the all-class state record, and we had a guy get really, really close to breaking 50 5 years earlier, but he didn't quite get it. And anybody that knows about Wade King's history, this guy went on to South Carolina and was a decorated All-American at South Carolina and swam on U.S. national teams as well. So he was a great butterflyer that came about 5 years before you, and probably at that time, it's certainly the fastest that had come along in the state. And you get the opportunity for all of time to be the answer to a trivia question. If somebody ever asks, who's the first guy ever to break 50 seconds in the state of Michigan in the 100 butterfly, you're looking at him. His name's Ron Orris, and he did it at the 1990 state meet when he went 49.7, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Let's take us inside that race and the first time you did something, your first 100 butterfly state championship, a state record, a lot of firsts here that you got to enjoy.
Yeah. So that, that race, interestingly enough, because I really knew Dave was swimming that again, right? And in the last couple of seasons, I just had these pinnacle swim meets getting touched out by. So this was kind of more about the rematch than it was anything else. And so, I just remember getting in the water for that race and just being focused on everything possible to win, right? Like it just, and I was, really concerned on the last wall, just that last 25. And so I wasn't even thinking about times on that one. I just wanted it. So yeah, that was great. Come in and see a 49. That was kind of like the, wish situation to come in and break 50. So yeah, it was great. I remember my coach was right there at the end of the lane. He wasn't a real emotional guy. He was just real stoic all the time. And, he kind of let out some, little fist pump there. It was great.